When a Filipino first appeared on CNN, many people didn't know what to expect. Some mocked her accent, others doubted her professionalism, and a few even laughed during her first live broadcast. The internet can be cruel, and the world often underestimates those who come from small islands with big hearts. But what they didn't realize was that this moment would become one of the most unforgettable turnarounds in television history. Because what started with laughter would end in admiration, and a Filipino would soon become one of CNN's most beloved anchors of all time. It began quietly. She wasn't born into fame or wealth. She didn't have the privilege of American education or elite connections. She was raised in a small community in the Philippines where news traveled faster through word of mouth than through screens. Yet even as a child, she was fascinated by how people told stories. While other kids dreamed of becoming singers, doctors, or engineers, she would sit in front of a small radio and mimic the voices of news anchors. She loved how they spoke, calm, clear, and powerful. She wanted to be that voice. But for a girl growing up in a country where opportunities were scarce, dreaming of CNN was like aiming for the stars without a rocket. Still, she never gave up. After years of hard work, studying journalism, covering local stories in the rain, and facing rejection after rejection, she finally made it. A Filipino on one of the biggest news networks in the world. Yet the day she first appeared on screen, the reaction wasn't what she hoped for. Some viewers laughed at her accent. Why does she sound like that? Can't CNN find a better anchor? The comments flooded social media, cruel and ignorant. But while others focused on her accent, they completely missed the message. Her English wasn't broken. It was global. Her voice wasn't strange. It was diverse. And her story wasn't ordinary. It was revolutionary. Because in that single broadcast, millions of Filipinos around the world tuned in, hearts pounding, realizing that one of their own had made it to the international stage. Every insult she received only fueled her determination. She kept showing up. She studied harder, refined her craft, and carried herself with grace even when critics tried to bring her down. Slowly, something changed. Viewers began to notice her composure, her professionalism, and her warmth. Her reports weren't just informative, they were human. She told stories with empathy, the way Filipinos do naturally. Whether she was covering natural disasters, world politics, or breaking news, she always found a way to connect with people. The same accent they mocked started to sound comforting. The same voice they once laughed at began to represent truth and sincerity. And the same Filipino identity they dismissed became a symbol of hope. Soon, she was no longer the anchor with the accent. She was the journalist who moved people to tears, the reporter who stayed calm in chaos, the one whose compassion reached across borders. Emails began pouring into CNN from viewers all over the world. She's the reason I watch the news again. Her voice is so genuine. She reminds me that journalists can still care. What began as mockery transformed into admiration, and her name started trending for all the right reasons. Behind the scenes, she never forgot her roots. She would often share how she missed home-cooked Filipino meals, how her mother still called after every broadcast to say, "I'm proud of you," and how she still prayed in Tagalog before going on air. She carried her culture like a crown. She knew that being Filipino wasn't a disadvantage, it was her greatest strength. Because while others tried to sound perfect, she focused on being real, and that authenticity broke barriers. When CNN celebrated diversity and inclusion, she became one of their leading examples. Her journey from being laughed at to being loved symbolized something much bigger than herself. It represented the rise of every Filipino who's ever been underestimated, every accent that's been mocked, and every dream that's been called too big. She didn't just change minds, she changed hearts. Her story became a source of pride for millions of overseas Filipinos. Nurses, teachers, caregivers, engineers, all working far from home yet finding a piece of themselves in her voice. For the first time, many said, "That's us, that's who we are." And the beauty of it all? She didn't need to change her accent. The world changed the way it listened. Years later, when she was invited to host a CNN special on global communication, she began her opening words by saying, "Once they said my voice didn't belong here. But today, this voice belongs to millions." The audience erupted in applause. Even her former critics admitted. She had something rare, something real. It wasn't just about perfect English or flawless delivery. It was about sincerity, clarity, and courage. The Filipino kind. What made her even more inspiring was how she used her platform to lift others. She mentored young journalists, especially from Southeast Asia, reminding them that storytelling was never about sounding Western, it was about sounding human. "If your heart is clear, your message will be too," she often said. Her story reached schools in the Philippines where teachers played her clips to inspire students. Children began to dream not just of becoming anchors, but of becoming proud of their own voices. From classrooms in Mindanao to coffee shops in Quezon City, people would say, "Did you see her last night? That's our kababayan." And it wasn't just Filipinos who admired her. Viewers from the US, Europe, and Africa praised her for bringing warmth to serious news. "There's something about her tone," one viewer wrote. "It feels honest." That honesty became her trademark. She became proof that professionalism doesn't require erasing who you are. It requires embracing it. Her accent became her identity, her authenticity became her power, and her resilience became her legacy. In time, she won awards for journalism, but the greatest recognition came not from trophies, but from people. One night, during a CNN anniversary special, clips of her earliest broadcasts were shown, including the one that had once been mocked. The camera cut to her face in the present. She smiled, not out of pride, but out of peace. Because she knew that laughter, when faced with perseverance, always fades, and respect always lasts longer. Today, her journey continues to inspire millions who still face judgment because of how they sound or where they come from. She reminds the world that greatness has no accent, and that the Filipino voice, when given a chance, can move the entire world. What once started as a moment of ridicule ended as a story of redemption, not just for one journalist, but for a whole nation. Because when one Filipino breaks through, it's never just for themselves. It's for every dreamer who dares to believe that their voice matters. Her rise wasn't luck, it was legacy. A legacy built on resilience, humility, and a refusal to be silenced. Today, when she appears on television, people don't hear a foreign accent. They hear confidence, compassion, and truth. They hear the sound of the Philippines echoing through global media, reminding everyone that sometimes, the ones you laugh at first are the ones you'll later stand to applaud. They laughed at a Filipino on CNN, but in the end, the laughter turned into respect. The mockery became admiration, and one voice became a movement. Because the Filipino spirit doesn't just speak. It inspires, uplifts, and redefines what the world calls excellence. And as the credits roll, her story stands as proof that in a world full of noise, it's not the loudest who are heard. It's the most genuine.